I need to see your ID before I serve you.
You don't want to do this. You'll regret it. This place will be closed soon. Mark my words.
Is that a threat?
It's a promise.
This is what I'm dealing with.
A smartphone camera captured the moment that would end a decade-long dream. Vivian stood above a seated patron, her phone aimed downward. Alex remained composed in his chair, returning her gaze with steady assurance. His table held nothing. No plate, no glass, just empty space where a meal should have been. Vivian couldn't have known that the following minute would dismantle 12 years of work. The footage would reach countless viewers. Her establishment would fall apart, and the composed man before her had attempted to caution her about what was coming. The bistro occupied a corner in a district experiencing renewal. Vivian had launched her establishment years earlier when the surroundings were less inviting. She offered French-style dishes at reasonable prices for neighborhood residents. Throughout more than 10 years, the place consumed her attention. She maintained long shifts, recognized most repeat patrons personally, and weathered 2 financial crises that shuttered numerous nearby establishments. One Thursday in autumn, Alex entered during the quiet hours between lunch and dinner. A few customers remained scattered throughout the space. Alex appeared professional in pressed attire and maintained shoes. He carried himself with earned confidence. Feeling hungry while driving through, he'd noticed the welcoming exterior and decided to stop. A server guided him to a central table. He settled in, set down his phone, and examined the menu. The server asked about beverages. He requested water and mentioned needing time to decide. She departed to fulfill his order. From the kitchen emerged Vivian, who'd been working on evening preparations. Her work clothes showed signs of kitchen duty, her hair secured tightly back. She cleaned her hands while approaching the dining area. Spotting Alex at his table, her expression altered. She approached him directly. Alex lifted his eyes from the menu, anticipating a greeting or introduction. Instead, Vivian stated she required his identification before providing service. Alex appeared puzzled and questioned the reason. Vivian cited restaurant procedures. Alex observed that other customers hadn't faced this requirement. The elderly pair near the window hadn't been asked. Neither had the professionals reviewing papers over coffee. Vivian's demeanor became rigid. She repeated her demand. The atmosphere shifted. The returning server stopped mid-step. One of the other patrons looked up. Alex maintained composure. He questioned whether something was wrong. She declared her authority to decline service and stated her discomfort with proceeding without verification. She produced her phone. Stepping backward slightly, she raised the device with its camera facing Alex, who remained seated. She announced loudly that she was documenting events for protection. She described having someone in her establishment requesting service while declining to provide identification. She stated her distrust and desire for documentation. Alex sat motionless. His voice stayed level. He made no sudden movements. He simply gazed upward at her, then toward the camera pointed his direction. His bearing stayed relaxed, his face calm. Then a faint smile crossed his features, not contemptuous or angry but almost regretful. He spoke softly yet distinctly. He informed Vivian that she didn't want to continue this path. He suggested she would come to regret it. He stated the establishment would likely close if she proceeded. He asked her to remember his words. Vivian's tone rose. She questioned whether he was making threats. Alex shook his head slowly, still seated, still facing her camera with unchanged steadiness. He clarified it wasn't a threat but a prediction. He rose calmly, moving his chair back. He departed without further comment. The door closed softly behind him. Silence filled the restaurant except for background music. The server stood frozen, glass still held. Other customers stared. Vivian lowered her device. Her hand trembled slightly, though not from fear, from anger. She felt vindicated. In her perspective, she'd protected her business from someone who triggered negative feelings. She possessed video evidence. She had observers present. She'd captured him apparently threatening her establishment. That evening after closing, Vivian uploaded the footage to social media. The establishment's page had several thousand followers, primarily locals and past customers. She wrote an explanation about refusing service to someone declining identification who then threatened her business. She indicated she was sharing the video to demonstrate her seriousness about safety. She anticipated support and expected customers to back her. She retired that night feeling she'd acted courageously. Morning brought chaos. Her phone filled with notifications. The video had been redistributed hundreds of times overnight. But responses weren't supportive, they expressed outrage. Initial comments accused her of discriminatory profiling. They noted Alex had committed no offense. He'd merely sat down awaiting service and been singled out because of his appearance. The footage showed exactly that, a well-presented black man sitting peacefully while being filmed and having demands made of him that hadn't been imposed on others present. And Alex, composed and dignified despite humiliation, cautioning her about future regrets. By mid-morning, the video had spread across platforms. Someone had downloaded and redistributed it widely. It appeared on community sites. Advocacy organizations shared it. The explanation Vivian had written was captured and circulated alongside the video, torn apart line by line. By midday, local media had discovered the story. A journalist contacted the restaurant seeking comment. Vivian, still believing herself correct, defended her actions in a statement. She argued business owners possessed protective rights. She cited her discomfort and claimed appropriate response. The statement worsened matters. Criticism intensified. People began posting negative reviews across all platforms where the establishment maintained presence. They flooded social media with demands for accountability. Some advocated boycotts. Others appeared to protest. By Friday evening, demonstrators stood outside holding signs about racism and respect. Vivian closed early that night. She secured the doors and sat in darkness reading phone comments. She still struggled to comprehend events. In her mind, she'd simply requested identification. She'd used no slurs. She'd caused no physical harm. She genuinely couldn't recognize the problem. But public opinion had formed decisively. Throughout the weekend, information about Alex emerged. People recognizing him from the footage shared his identity. Alex wasn't merely passing through. He was well regarded in the community. He'd dedicated years to youth programs. He'd helped secure funding for after-school initiatives in underserved areas. He served on boards for local nonprofits. Those who knew him described someone kind, generous, and deeply committed to community improvement. The contrast was striking. A business owner who'd humiliated someone based solely on prejudice versus someone who devoted his life to helping others. The narrative spread rapidly. By Monday, protests outside had expanded from a handful to dozens. They marched in circles on the sidewalk with chants and signs. News crews appeared to film. Vivian watched from inside, peering through drawn blinds. She'd opened that morning from stubbornness, but not one customer entered. Pressure mounted. Her landlord called expressing concerns. He noted protests were affecting neighboring businesses. He referenced lease clauses about conduct damaging property reputation. Her supplier emailed about reviewing their partnership. Her insurance representative called regarding policy coverage for certain liabilities. Everything was collapsing. Vivian hired a public relations consultant, spending money she lacked, hoping for help. The consultant reviewed the video, comments, and coverage. Then delivered hard truth. The only path forward involved full public apology acknowledging racial bias and committing to genuine change. Vivian resisted. She still didn't believe she'd been racist. She maintained she would have asked anyone for identification if they made her uncomfortable. The consultant asked why Alex had made her uncomfortable. Vivian lacked a good answer. The consultant asked whether she'd ever demanded identification from others before serving them. Vivian admitted she hadn't. The consultant identified that as the problem. Vivian refused to issue the recommended apology. She felt it would admit something she didn't believe she'd done. The consultant resigned 2 days later, unwilling to represent someone refusing accountability. Following weeks proved brutal. Protests eventually ceased, but damage was complete. Word had spread too far. People who'd never heard of the place now knew it as where the owner racially profiled a customer. Regular locals stopped coming. They couldn't support a business run by someone treating people that way. Vivian attempted continuation. She appeared daily. She prepared food though barely anyone ordered. She paid staff as long as possible, but one by one they found other employment. The server who'd been present when Alex sat down gave notice. She said she couldn't work somewhere, making her feel complicit in discrimination. Revenue dropped over 80% in the first month. Vivian depleted savings to cover rent and utilities. She took a loan to pay suppliers. She stopped taking salary. Nothing helped. The few entering customers were mostly those wanting to gawk or make snide remarks. One man sat down and loudly asked whether he needed multiple forms of identification to get served. Vivian asked him to leave. By late autumn, Vivian had exhausted options. She'd burned through savings. Loan payments were due. Suppliers demanded upfront payment instead of extending credit. The landlord had begun reviewing her lease for possible violations. She sat in the empty establishment one night, surrounded by tables once full. Walls displayed photos from better times. Satisfied customers, staff celebrations, positive reviews from critics. All felt like ancient history. Vivian finally allowed herself to consider what Alex had said. He'd warned her. He'd told her calmly and clearly her actions would lead to this. He'd been correct. She considered reaching out to him. Perhaps if she apologized directly, privately, things could improve. But she knew it wouldn't work. The damage wasn't just between her and Alex. It was between her and an entire community that had witnessed her true character and wanted no association. In early November, Vivian decided to close permanently. She posted a brief announcement citing financial difficulties. She didn't mention the video or Alex or any of it. The post received hundreds of comments, most saying good riddance. She spent a weekend clearing out the space. She packed equipment, furniture, decorations. Everything was sold or stored. The space that had been her dream for 12 years was emptied in 2 days. The landlord quickly found new tenants. Within a month, a young couple signed to open a coffee shop in the same location. They painted over the old colors and removed the signage. By December, almost no evidence remained that the bistro had existed. Vivian attempted moving forward. She applied for restaurant management positions, but her reputation followed. The video remained online, easily searchable. Potential employers would research her and find the story. Promising interviews would suddenly go cold. One hiring manager stated directly they couldn't bring aboard someone with that public history. She ended up taking entry-level work at a chain restaurant an hour from where she'd lived. It was nowhere near the authority or pride she'd felt running her own place. She worked under younger managers, following corporate scripts and policies. It was humbling in the worst way. The story became a cautionary tale. It was shared in diversity training as an example of implicit bias and discrimination consequences. It was discussed in business classes as a case study in reputation management. Alex never spoke publicly about the incident. He didn't give interviews or make statements. He didn't need to. The video spoke for itself. What made everything more striking was how avoidable it had been. Alex hadn't stormed in seeking trouble. He hadn't been rude or aggressive. He'd simply sat down, picked up a menu, and waited to order. If Vivian had just let the server assist him like any other customer, none of this would have happened. The restaurant would still operate. Her reputation would remain intact. Her life would look completely different. But she'd made a choice. She'd let her discomfort, her bias, her fear override basic decency. And when given the chance to stop, when Alex himself had cautioned her, she'd doubled down. She'd stood over him with her camera. She'd posted the video online. She'd declared herself the victim. Public response showed her otherwise. People often wonder what goes through someone's mind when they make decisions like Vivian's. Was it outright hatred? Fear? Ignorance? The truth is probably a mix, tangled with entitlement and a belief that she had the right to treat people however she wanted in her own business. But rights come with responsibilities and actions come with consequences. The consequences for Vivian were swift and severe. She lost her business, reputation, livelihood, and community respect. All because she couldn't see a black man sit down at one of her tables without treating him like a threat. Alex, meanwhile, continued his work. He kept showing up for community programs he cared about. He kept mentoring young people. He kept doing the quiet, important work that had defined his life long before he ever sat down at that table. The incident didn't define him because he'd never let others' ignorance dictate his worth. But for Vivian, that minute of video became her life's defining moment. It was what people would always remember about her. Not the 12 years building a business, not the meals served or customers welcomed. Just that one moment when she let bias win and destroyed everything as a result. The image of her standing over Alex with her phone, filming him as he sat calmly looking into the camera, became iconic. It was used in presentations about discrimination. It was referenced in articles about racial profiling. That moment, frozen in time, showed everything wrong with how black people are treated in everyday spaces. Someone sitting at a table doing nothing wrong being treated like a criminal. The building where the bistro operated is unrecognizable now. The coffee shop that replaced it is bright and modern with large windows and cheerful staff. They do good business. The neighborhood has continued growing and improving. Life moved on. Vivian, however, remains stuck in the aftermath of that Thursday afternoon. She lives farther away now, works a job she doesn't love, and avoids social media entirely. She's thought many times about what she'd say to Alex if she ever saw him again. But she knows no apology would be enough. No words could undo what she did or repair what she destroyed. And Alex, for his part, probably doesn't think about her at all. He tried to warn her, not from arrogance, but from understanding how the world works. He knew her actions would catch up to her. He knew that in an age where everything is recorded and shared, bigotry doesn't stay hidden. He knew people were tired of being treated as less than, and they wouldn't stay silent when it happened. He'd given her a chance to step back. She'd chosen to step forward, phone in hand, ready to capture what she thought was her moment of justified caution. Instead, she captured her own downfall. This story isn't just about one restaurant closing. It's about accountability. It's about the fact that actions, especially those rooted in discrimination, carry weight. It's about the reality that in today's world, you cannot mistreat someone and expect it to disappear. Vivian thought she was protecting her business. Instead, she destroyed it with her own hands. The video she recorded as evidence of her supposed victimhood became evidence of her wrongdoing. The platform she used to seek support became the platform that exposed her. And the man she tried to humiliate sat in that chair with his dignity intact while she lost everything. There's a lesson here for anyone who runs a business, manages a team, or interacts with the public in any capacity. People are watching. Technology has made sure of that. But more importantly, people deserve to be treated with respect regardless of what they look like or where they come from. That's not a political statement. It's basic human decency. Vivian forgot that. Or maybe she never learned it in the first place. Either way, the cost of that failure was everything she'd worked for. Alex had stated the restaurant would close. He didn't make it happen through revenge or sabotage. He simply understood that the truth, once revealed, has power. Vivian revealed her own truth the moment she hit record. The rest was inevitable. The last time anyone saw Vivian in the old neighborhood was months after the closure. She'd come back to collect some mail still being forwarded to the restaurant's address. She parked down the street and walked quickly, head down, hoping not to be recognized. Someone did recognize her, though. They didn't confront her. They just watched her go, shaking their head. She got back in her car and drove away. She hasn't been back since. The bistro is gone. The sign was removed. The memories faded. The only thing that remains is the video still circulating online, still being used as an example of what not to do. The image of Alex sitting calmly, looking into the camera with confidence while being harassed for simply existing in that space, continues to resonate. And somewhere, Alex continues living his life, probably unaware of how often that video is still shared, still discussed, still shown as proof that standing firm in the face of injustice, even quietly, can lead to change. Vivian learned the hard way that respect is not optional. Dignity is not negotiable. And when you treat people as less than human, don't be surprised when the world treats your business as less than worthy of support. Her career ended not because of bad food or poor service, but because she couldn't see past her own bias long enough to serve someone a meal. She stood over him with a camera instead of bringing him food. That's what she'll be remembered for. That's her legacy. And it all could have been avoided if she had just let him sit there, look at the menu, and order his food like every other customer who had ever walked through those doors.